U.S. President Trump and First Lady test positive for COVID-19. Trump's positive test comes just hours after top aide Hope Hicks, who traveled with the president multiple times this week, tested positive for the virus. U.S. President Donald Trump walks with First Lady Melania Trump at Cleveland Hopkins International Airport in Cleveland, Ohio, U.S., September 29, 2020. Reuters. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump have tested positive for the coronavirus, the president has tweeted. Trump's positive test comes just hours after the White House announced that senior aide Hope Hicks came down with the virus after traveling with the president several times this week. Trump is 74 years old, putting him at higher risk of serious complications from a virus that has now killed more than 200,000 people nationwide. Trump had earlier said that he and the First Lady were beginning a quarantine process as they awaited their coronavirus test results. Trump's comments came after he confirmed that Hope Hicks, one of his closest aides, had tested positive for the virus on Thursday. Hicks began feeling mild symptoms during the plane ride home from a rally in Minnesota on Wednesday evening, according to an administration official, who spoke on condition of anonymity to disclose private information. She was quarantined away from others on the plane and her diagnosis was confirmed on Thursday, the source said. Trump tweeted late Thursday, "The First Lady and I are waiting for our test results. In the meantime, we will begin our quarantine process." The White House has released this statement from President Trump's physician, confirming that both the president and First Lady have tested positive for COVID-19. Karen Kaifa at Karen Kaifa CNN, October 2, 2020. Hope Hicks, who has been working so hard without even taking a small break, has just tested positive for COVID-19. Terrible. The First Lady and I are waiting for our test results. In the meantime, we will begin our quarantine process. Donald J. Trump at Real Donald Trump, October 2, 2020. Multiple travels. Earlier, during a call-in interview with Fox News Channel's Sean Hannity, Trump said, "Whether we quarantine or whether we have it, I don't know. I just went for a test, and we'll see what happens." It can take days for an infection to be detectable by a test, and it was unclear what Trump's quarantine entailed. Minutes before his tweet, the White House distributed a schedule for Friday that showed he planned to go forward with a fundraiser at his Washington, D.C., hotel and a political rally in Sanford, Florida. Hicks, who serves as counselor to Trump, also traveled with Trump to the first presidential debate in Cleveland on Tuesday. She is the closest White House official to Trump to test positive for the virus so far. The positive test is yet another reminder that the coronavirus continues to spread, even as Trump has tried desperately to suggest it no longer poses a danger. Since it emerged earlier this year, Trump, the White House and his campaign have played down the threat and refused to abide by basic public health guidelines, including those issued by his own administration, such as wearing masks in public and practicing social distancing. Instead, Trump has continued to hold campaign rallies that draw thousands of supporters. The virus has killed more than 200,000 Americans and infected more than 7 million nationwide. The White House did not respond earlier to multiple questions about the last time Trump was tested and whether he and other staffers who spent time with Hicks in recent days will be asked to quarantine. Trump traveled to New Jersey Thursday for a fundraiser despite concerns about Hicks' health. In a statement, White House spokesman Judd Deere said the president takes the health and safety of himself and everyone who works in support of him and the American people very seriously. White House operations collaborates with the physician to the president and the White House Military Office to ensure all plans and procedures incorporate current CDC guidance and best practices for limiting COVID-19 exposure to the greatest extent possible both on complex and when the president is traveling, Deere said. Hicks traveled with the president multiple times this week, including aboard Marine One, the presidential helicopter, and on Air Force One to a rally in Minnesota Wednesday, and aboard Air Force One to Tuesday night's first presidential debate in Cleveland. Hicks is one of the president's most trusted and longest-serving aides, having worked as spokesperson for his 2016 campaign. She originally served as White House's communications director, and rejoined the administration this year as an advisor ahead of the election. Her positive test was first reported by Bloomberg News on Thursday evening. She did not respond to a request for comment. Symptoms. Multiple White House staffers have tested positive for the virus, including Katie Miller, Vice President Mike Pence's press secretary, National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien, and one of the president's personal valets. Kimberly Guilfoyle, who is dating Trump's oldest son, Donald Trump Jr., tested positive in South Dakota before an Independence Day fireworks show at Mount Rushmore. Still, Trump has consistently played down concerns about being personally vulnerable to contracting COVID-19. "I felt no vulnerability whatsoever," he told reporters back in May. After earlier positive cases close to the president, the White House instituted a daily testing regimen for the president's senior aides. Anyone who will be in close proximity to the president or vice president is also tested every day, including reporters. While the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommends that people who have been in close contact with someone with COVID-19 quarantine for 14 days, White House staffers are considered essential workers. CDC guidelines for exposed essential workers allow them to return to work if they take precautions, including taking their temperature before going into work, wearing a mask at all times and practicing social distancing. Typically, according to the CDC, a person develops symptoms 5 days after being infected, but symptoms can appear as early as 2 days after infection or as late as 14 days after infection, and the time range can vary.